Can you believe that the GTX 1080 Ti recently celebrated its 7th birthday? The inevitable march towards entropy aside, this is still one of the most fondly remembered graphics cards by PC gamers all over the world. So what exactly made it so special? Well, when Pascal GTX 10 series graphics cards originally launched in 2016, the top end for us gamers was occupied by the GTX 1080, though the performance crown was actually held by the confusingly named Titan X Pascal, or just XP for short. No, not that one. It featured a full-fledged GP102 GPU, 12 gigs of VRAM, and absolutely destroyed every single other graphics card on the market. The only problem, it cost $1,200. And when you mention that kind of price tag for a graphics card, people are already up in arms nowadays, so imagine the reaction back then. But then a year later in 2017, we got the GTX 1080 Ti, featuring the same GP102 chip, 11 gigs of GDDR5X memory. It not only greatly outperformed the 1080 non-Ti, but even traded blows with the Titan, all while, and that's the most important part, costing just $700. $500 less than a Titan and just $100 more than a 1080. And can you actually imagine that? A flagship for $700? What a crazy concept, you know, what a crazy idea that would be, huh? Now granted, it wouldn't hold on to its throne for long and would be usurped just a month later with the release of the actual Titan XP, which whilst significantly outperforming it, also went back to a $1,200 price tag, meaning that for the average gamer, it was the 1080 Ti that remained the card to salivate over, while still being actually somewhat within reach. So how well did it actually perform and how well does it actually keep up? Well, as someone who's actually been using a 1080 Ti, more specifically this model from Gigabyte, up until last year, I can say that it holds up, well, actually pretty well. Starting off with an esports title like Rainbow Six Siege, you can see that it's way more than playable at max settings, even at 4K, which is a luxury that definitely isn't that important in an esports title like Siege. And sure, the argument could be made that the performance could be increased even further with faster CPU. Given our CPU versus GPU loads right here, I don't think that would change too much. And speaking of loads, one thing that is definitely helping out here is the massive, not really heard of at the time, 11GB frame buffer on this card, because Siege, even at 4K, doesn't max that out. In something a lot more demanding like Cyberpunk 2077, it's definitely a very different story, but it's nothing that some light quality level FSR won't fix, and especially in a game like this, even 30 FPS is more than playable. And when this game gets an update to FSR 3 with its frame gen, well, that's when things will get even crazier. And again, this is at ultra settings. If we just take it down a notch just a bit to just high settings, we see absolutely amazing results with a downgrade in the graphics that most average gamers won't even really notice that much. And may I remind you, we're talking about playing a game that looks like this at almost the highest settings on a GPU that is 7 years old. I think that just needs to be reiterated. So when it comes to pure performance, you can see it aged very gracefully, even at 4K, and thanks to modern upscaling tech, it's actually aging even better. However, when it comes to some of the other features we expect from modern graphics card, well, it isn't that great. Naturally, you don't have access to Nvidia DLSS, that's only available on RTX graphics cards, and while you are technically able to ray trace on this, because on the driver level, all 10 series graphics cards can actually ray trace, the performance is so bad that most games will not even allow you to do that, and in the games that do, the performance will not be great, because while it can ray trace, it definitely wasn't built for it from the ground up like RTX cards. It's like saying that, yeah, I could technically go and enter a heavy lifting competition, but well, I definitely wasn't really built for that. What's more, because of its shipping with HDMI 2.0 and DisplayPort 1.4, it doesn't even support 4K, 144Hz, and HDR all at the same time. Though the fix for that is actually fairly simple. Just go down to 120Hz instead, and then you can play with that oh so beautiful HDR. Because let's be honest, at that kind of refresh rate, most people won't notice having 24Hz less, and if you can notice that, then well, you need some more hobbies. And well, yes, because I know some people are going to comment about it, if you do already have a GTX 1080 Ti, you can technically extend its performance a bit more by running it in SLI, and it can actually be hacked to even support quad SLI at that, given that even back then SLI scaling wasn't that great anymore, and nowadays the technology is pretty much dead, that everything you'll be re-extending is your debt if you buy any more of these 1080 Ti's just to get maybe 1 or 2 frames extra, if that. And between it's still supporting DVI, at least in some models, its SLI ambition, and overall just a fantastic price to performance ratio at a time, it'll certainly still go down in history as one of the better graphics cards that Nvidia has ever made. And a mistake they'll never commit again. But let me know your favorite memories with this graphics card down in the comments below. And while I stay here, if you want to help keep the memory of more awesome tech like this alive, maybe check out our Patreon, because even a single $1 a month truly goes a long way in achieving that. Plus huge thanks to Gavin Burns, Justin Rage, Alavroniak, Dev Panda, Noskov of Kane, Bardosh Voka, Noah Sunanim, Meg Sumner, Shane Allcroft, Lansby, and Level Up. But anyway, that's what it's. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then remember to subscribe, like, whatever, and I'll see you all in whatever I make next. Goodbye everyone, goodbye.